You're listening to audio from University Baptist Church in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Our mission is to make wholehearted followers of Jesus Christ who know him and make him known. Please enjoy this podcast and visit us at ubcbeavercreek.com for more information.
Welcome into UBC Talking Points. Our purpose is to make wholehearted followers of Jesus Christ who know him and make him known. And we're doing that here through our ministry and theology conversations on this podcast. So I'm your host, Jason Wing, and today I am joined by my friend and fellow UBC elder, Cedarville University professor extraordinaire, Dr. Scott Dixon. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
How'd you like that nice introduction?
It was very nice, but I'm not an elder right now.
Oh, that's right. You're on your elder sabbatical.
Yeah.
We still got you preaching. We still got you on the podcast. So that's cool.
Okay.
All right. So before we jump in, a lot of people know who you are. They know of your teaching style. They know of your preaching of the word, the classes you teach, the role you play as an elder. But they may not know a lot about you personally. So we like to get these podcasts started sometimes with some personal stuff. So what is one interesting thing about Scott Dixon that most of our listeners don't know?
I don't know. I probably have talked about it. I'm a biker. I like to bike not a motorcycle. And I'm not Jeff Van Scoy. I am a rider of a bike.
A rider of a bike.
Yes, I love it.
And
it's an exercise.
What kind of bike do you have?
I actually have something called a Bachetta. It is a recumbent, which means you sit back, but it's not the one. It's a 3-wheeler for the old men. I don't do that one. It's a 2-wheeler, full-sized wheels. So I'm up as a regular bike, but I'm sitting on my rear end, leaning back.
Really?
My feet are as high as my head.
Really?
Yes.
All right. So I see you guys ride those recumbent bikes through Xenia, where I live and stuff, but they're all 3-wheelers.
That's right.
A 2-wheeler?
It's a 2-wheeler. It's made to get the same exercise as a regular bike. I had some hip problems, and so this was a better way to bike than sitting on the bike.
Does it have big fat tires that keep it balanced? Somehow you just get it going and hop in the seat?
Get it going. That's the one drawback of it is you really can't ride it in traffic very well because if it loses its steam, you fall.
Yeah, for sure.
And you got no place to put your feet because you're clipped in. And then it's not good up hills because you can't stand up and mash on the pedals.
Yeah. So my one of the last things I remember about you with biking is the day you had your crash.
Oh yeah, that was do you know who caused that crash?
No.
Well, I caused it. But
Phil Wing.
No.
Who?
Scott.
Scott
on the committee, personnel committee. Scott
Wrigglesworth.
Scott Wrigglesworth and
caused that crash,
and 2 other guys were riding it as 4 people. He didn't cause it. I mean, we were 4 of us riding, and I thought I'd try to get behind him and kind of get the, what do you call that? NASCAR. You get the stream.
Yeah, the little stream.
And so I didn't tell him I was doing it. And I got too close, and he kind of slowed down. My wheel hit his wheel. And anytime a front wheel of a bike and a back wheel of a bike, back wheel hit, the front wheel always loses. So I went right down on my head. We were going 25 miles an hour probably.
Wow. And that's when you ended up having all those
busted
pins in your elbow. And you sent me the x-ray pictures and stuff. That was gnarly.
It was.
Are you still bitter at Scott Wrigglesworth about that?
I didn't. Yeah, I am not, but
we'll cover that in your next elder examination.
Forgiveness.
Okay. All right.
That's again, I want to make clear. It was not his fault. It was my fault.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing your wonderful biking experience with us. All right. All right, so we're talking about technology on this pod. And so let me start with some popcorn questions for you. I'm going to give you 2 choices. You got to choose one. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. iPhone or Android?
iPhone. Never had an Android.
Never had one?
Nope.
Me neither. Cool. Earbuds or headphones?
I use both.
Do you know what the difference is between the two?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you might need a little help.
I actually use I've got ones I use at night to sleep that go in your ear and you don't even know it's there to help me sleep. Okay. It's like to listen to music. I have ones that go on your ear canal. What do you call that bone right here? They sit on your bone and you can hear the vibrations.
I don't know.
I use that for biking.
Okay.
And then I use headphones at home if I need to.
Okay. Gotcha. So, sermon podcast or musical playlist?
Well, I'd have to have a third. I listen to a lot of books, audiobooks.
Okay. Well, that was my next question. Audiobook or paperback book?
Okay. It's both.
You have a stack of paperback books, like 20 books deep here in front of me.
Yeah, but I will go an hour to 2 hours on a bike ride. So I like to have a audio book. That's where I do my audio books.
Gotcha.
Those tend to be like mysteries, things like that, easy listening stuff.
Okay, gotcha. So do you also do paper? You obviously do paperback books because you got a bunch of them here. Do you ever listen to musical playlists?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I play it, on my Bose Bluetooth speaker.
Because you always like to talk about these musical artists, but I wonder, do you actually listen to them, or do you?
Oh yeah.
Do you sing along with them?
No.
I love to hear a recording of that. Yeah. All right. Last popcorn question: Frogger or Pac-Man?
Pac-Man. Because the Cedarville, its first video game, like they had in a car arcade, you had to pay to play it.
Oh,
it was a sit-down machine with a Pac-Man. It was in car basement, if anybody knows. But
in the car basement?
Yes.
That car was my first dorm.
There you go.
My freshman year.
Did they have a basement then? Because they moved. It's no longer a basement. It's rooms now.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be you go down and watch TV, and you could play ping pong, pool, and Pac-Man.
And also they had a weightlifting bench down there.
Oh.
Yeah. I remember we used to all go down there and watch like TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what did you say it was? Pac-Man? All right.
Yeah.
Now, some of our listeners probably don't even know what Frogger was. I think the guys recording this pod, they're shaking their heads no. Oh, one of them says yes, he does know what Frogger is. Ethan O'Neill does not know what Frogger is. You should find a way to put that in your sermon coming up soon.
He doesn't know Frogger?
Right. Or just tell people about Frogger. I mean, what a great video game from like circa 1982 or whatever. All right. So you are you're in the grandpa stage of life.
Yes.
And so you understand things like Pac-Man and Frogger, even though some of our listeners won't. So that means you've been around long enough to observe technological advancements of the past 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, what were some of the most significant advancements technologically, and how do you think they affected the church?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, I think the most significant one is the one we're going to talk about in the screens and the iPhones and the internet. So, but as far as, other stuff, like you've got flannel graph and puppets and video and, I think, what's the guy's name? Is it McGee and Adventures in Odyssey?
See, my conservative church background I couldn't even get into that.
They revolutionized junior church. So that was a big step. And those, if you remember those.
Did you have Patch the Pirate?
Oh, yeah. And the Bible Man?
Now, quick little side note. Do you know that Rachel got asked to be on the cast for Bible Man? By the way, for our listeners, Rachel is my wife.
How old was she when she got asked to do that?
She was in high school or something, and she auditioned, and they wanted her to be some role on Bible Man.
Esther?
I don't know. I've never seen an episode of Bible Man, but I know that it's her claim to fame. Anyway, so, I was thinking through the past 50 years. So what year were you born?
62.
All right. And so what year would you say, like, I don't know, this might have been maybe more like your dad's stage of life and stuff, but like pretty big shift for things to go from kind of being radio broadcast to television broadcast, right? So some people kind of lived through that era where church ministry, evangelism, stuff like that was broadcast over airwaves, but then it became televised.
Yeah.
Right. And that was kind of a big shift in our culture, but in church ministry life also. That probably would have been more like your dad's era and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, Billy Graham was on television. Jerry Falwell would be on television.
Yeah, so we kind of joke about televangelists now, but like back in the day, that was like a significant advancement.
But the interesting thing about it was, it was before cable and all that kind of stuff. They would be on Sunday mornings often. So either the shut-ins or other people, church members really shouldn't be watching them. They should be at their own church.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
All right. So, so then you think through that era, right, where things went from radio to TV, and then TV became a big deal. Televangelist, TV ministry, even like once like recordings and like VCRs and videotapes could come out, then you could have teaching series that came out.
And that's when I was in college in 70s and 80s. it was big, especially for the Bible major types like me, to get John MacArthur cassettes. Like they'd come in, like let's say he did a series on the fruit of the Spirit. You could get all 12 tapes. Then you pass them, cassette tapes. Pass them around. So the cassette tapes were big.
All right. So we kind of entered into from there to like the CD, the digital recording era and that kind of thing. And then, of course, like you mentioned a minute ago, kind of the introduction of the internet, changed the world, but also church life and ministry. So I would say, like, Ethan's over here listening to this podcast, he probably doesn't remember a world pre-internet. Right?
No, it started. What year was he born? 02. Yeah, the internet it really became mid-90s popularized. AOL and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember getting ready to go to college in like 1995, and my friends got dial-up AOL internet, and that was like the first time I had ever even heard or thought of anything. So that was mid-90s, right? So that changed the world, right? Changed the church. So as you think about like that era till now, there's been a lot of changes in the way ministry happens because of the technological advancements. So just kind of think through, I don't know, the past 30 years or so, and what would you say are some of the significant changes in church life and ministry life or university life, whatever it may be in your case?
Well, I think now one thing is other voices are much more available to church members, to churchgoers, as far as preachers or music or anything like, that they can hear just about anybody anytime now.
Oh, so, sure.
Yeah. So like, again, like I said, in the 80s, you had to buy cassettes, but anybody can listen, anybody can watch now. So that's different. A lot more voices in their ear than just the pastor. Which also means, they can get, not so good messages. They're easier to access. Stuff that the new cutting edge guy who may be a little bit off and everybody kind of flocks to him. Yeah. That can be a problem. Whereas before it'd have been harder.
Yeah, for sure. It's like everybody's got their pastor, their favorite pastor. They can just pull up at any time now, listen to their favorite preacher. And that's such a different dynamic from the world that we grew up in, right? It's like that wasn't even an option. But yeah, that's a huge change, thinking about things like live streaming. Like we never had live streaming before, but now live streaming's everywhere. It's like
COVID brought that.
Yeah, true. Our church never did a live stream ever until COVID came around. And the first Sunday we just turned our iPhone around and Facebook Lived our first service, right? Yeah. And, we grew up in the era where like, if you wanted to connect with your missionary, you kind of had to have a missionary service where they came in with their, what do you call that thing with the slide deck that they would have to push through?
Carousel, slide carousel.
Right.
And if they were cool, they had music with it.
Oh, that's true. Played on a track. Right?
And what was the slide that was always the end?
I don't know what.
Sunset.
Oh, nice.
Sunset.
But yeah, now we live stream our missionaries in from like other countries and stuff.
And just think how helpful it is to them, right? To be able to access people over here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. So, I guess I'm just kind of setting the stage that there's been so much technological advancement.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the things I do want to emphasize. There's a lot of good from technology.
For sure.
Technology is neither good or bad, but it's not neutral. Which means that technology itself is not good or bad, but it can be used by people for good or bad.
So reiterate that again. You said it's neither good nor bad, but it's not neutral.
Right. It's always going to be used with certain results are going to take place. And those results can be labeled either good or bad. So this is the second week I'll talk about this. I don't say too much now, but Noah used this tar called batar in Hebrew to help build the ark. Right? The people that made the Tower of Babel used the same substance. Right?
The tar?
It's this tar. It's called batar, something like that. Yeah. But they used it, Noah used it, one for good, one for bad.
Right? I see. Yeah. So same with a sword or any other early on.
And same, I think, believe the same with the internet, same with AI.
Okay.
which we'll get to the second week.
Okay. All right. So I've heard you preach for many years now. I mean, probably at least 10 years now. I've heard you preach. You are good at utilizing pop culture in your teachings. Of course, everything used to be about Bono, and now more recently it's become Taylor Swift. And then I think last time around you decided to talk about B-Reels or things like that. Remember those? So, makes me wonder which celebrity's coming next. All right. So we'll see who you...
Could it be Phil Wing?
I mean, I would assume so. Why wouldn't it be? The greatest man alive. All right. Now...
No, the greatest guitar player alive.
Oh, okay. Better than Bono? Well, he doesn't play guitar.
No.
The Edge.
The Edge. Yeah. He's second to the Edge.
Now, how do you, just to kind of get into your personal life, how do you personally stay up to date with, news, relevant events, pop culture? How do you do that?
Two main reasons, two main ways, which one is diminished a little bit, but I had 5 kids at home.
That's true.
So, and so I had them from 86 to roughly 2015 or whatever. So that kept me young and cutting edge. I also tend to spend a lot of time with 18 to 22 year olds. So that does as well. Nice. But probably the most important reason is I'm ADHD. I mean, I self-diagnosed and wife-diagnosed. But I just can't, am always jumping around and I can't sit still in my mind for much. So I'm just always exploring and that kind of stuff.
You would never be the kind of guy to look at ESPN during an elder meeting.
No. I got convicted. I quit doing it. Yeah. No, I mean,
my favorite elder meeting.
Let me use that to segue into something though. And I will, and that is, I have been convicted and actually exhausted by all that. And I think AI has put me over the edge. I don't think it has. I've been thrown into a situation now where AI is expected and all that kind of stuff. And, I just I don't want to do another thing, You
don't want to do it, meaning like
another tech.
Utilize it?
Yeah, I just don't want to have to. I don't want to be bombarded with another tech thing, which is going to seemingly take over more of my life. So I'm kind of intentionally, and this is not this phrase means something to me. What's it mean to live a digital life, and what's it mean to live an analog life? And I'd rather live an analog life right now. So I have got off a lot of my, apps, Twitter, X, that kind of stuff. I'm off. I'm not reading the newspapers except physically. I'll get one on a Sunday and read it. And I have magazines I get, but I'm trying just to stay off all that, at least Monday through Friday.
Really?
Now I still have certain Substack guys who I read, who recommend things. And if they recommend something, then I may go look at that.
Now, what did you just call them? Substack?
Yeah. You know what Substack is?
No. Do you guys know what Substack is over there?
Substack's a new blog.
Oh, man.
It's just a different way to blog.
Okay.
And
you're so cool, Scott. You know Substack.
Thank you.
Okay.
But you can get money that way and stuff like that. So they have a Substack, but it's just a blogging. And so but still, I'm just trying to stay off the screen, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
But I used to be the king of skidding on the screen and following every link and reading's too much.
It's just like a black hole, man. It's like once you get in there, you're not getting out. It's just crazy.
And I also, here's one of the questions we'll have talked about is, what is that doing to my heart? How is that forming me? And one of the examples, I won't use it in the sermon, but I can use it here, is like Twitter. Twitter's made up of people giving their opinions in short bursts, often at the expense of other people. And, politics is the easy one to think about that way, or you could use sports, Buckeyes, Wolverines. I mean, stuff, always just, but then I started, there are certain pastor groups that use Twitter and they will start bashing other pastors.
Oh, for sure.
And that just that wasn't, and I was always drawn to that. See, one of the things about the internet, one of the things about our attention, and getting attention is they have algorithms. You know what those are?
Yeah, sure.
So the algorithms are built into all apps and all the stuff. And it's trying to keep our attention on that site. And the way it does that, and they have found the most powerful attention getters are anger and fear. So if they can find what scares you and find what makes you mad, they will use that to keep you on that screen.
What scares you and what makes you mad.
Yeah. And so, but I think that the Twitter guys also knew that intuitively.
Sure.
Because they want people to listen to their Twitter. I mean, to connect to them.
Right.
So if they can bash people, that gets attention.
Sure. Definitely. So you learned that somewhere along the way that anger and fear are the things that kind of get the attention online. And you have a stack of books in front of us pretty deep here that have influenced some of your thoughts on all these topics.
Yeah.
Let's start just kind of touching on some of these. Like as you think about the people that you've learned from, I know you're going to mention other resources along the way as we go, but that, I guess it just struck me that you learned that, like that fear and anger, like somewhere along the way, somebody who's researched all this and written about it.
That was probably, use also articles and stuff. And that's been said more than once.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly which, because like the first book I read in 2010, 3 years after the iPhone, was a book called The Shallows by a writer named Nicholas Card. And the subtitle was What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. And that's the first one I read that really made me think there was a connection here to ministry and being a Christian and discipleship. Because if you're shallow in your thinking, that means you're not going deep in your thinking. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going deep in your thinking, how are you supposed to meditate on the things of the Lord?
Right? Yeah, you just get a TikTok theology or whatever other label we want to put on it without thinking deeply. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a good quote. This is not from there, but the core of learning anything is developing the capacity to concentrate. Okay. That's how you learn. Right. And so like one of the things that the writer Nicholas Carr was saying is if we're just being trained to think in a shallow way, what's going to happen to our learning? What's going to happen to wisdom? Mm-hmm. So if the core of education is concentration, so to know requires that we concentrate, and to be wise, I believe, requires that we contemplate. And both concentration and contemplation require undistracted and uninterrupted time.
And that's from that book?
No, that's
a different okay.
Some of that's me, some of that's other stuff. He just said the stuff about taking the time to learn.
You shared earlier about how you can be easily kind of going from one thing to another. You kind of said, what'd you say, self-diagnosed ADD?
Yeah, ADHD.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that ties into what you just said, learning to concentrate.
Yeah.
Right. So
and that is a simple fact that's been proven again and again, that those who use the screen most have the least concentration, right? Average is 150, 200 times a day. The average American checks their phone, right? So you have this constant distraction. And if you're always distracted, you're never concentrating. If you're never concentrating, you're never learning. You're never growing wise.
And then tie that now into the things of the Lord and things like you started to go down that road. And
let me give you a Dallas Willard quote for that. It's talking about discipleship. He says, "In attention," and that's one of the big themes of dealing with technology is how it affects our attention. Being a disciple includes having intentional attention. Without it, you can't do it. Okay. And so Dallas Willard said, we need to understand that what occupies our mind very largely governs what we do. Right? What you think about is what you'll do. And that sets the emotional tone out of which our actions flow, and it projects the possible courses of action available to us. The mind, though of little power in its own, is the place of our widest and most basic freedom. This is what got me. This is true in both the direct and indirect sense. Of all the things we do, we have more freedom with respect to what we will think of, where we will place our mind than anything else. And it is such an important, valuable decision. What am I going to think about?
Yeah. Sure.
Right? And so what you have in your pocket now is something that's trying to get your attention. Let me give you one of my favorite illustrations of that.
Okay.
The people, the largely males who designed the internet and the phone and all the apps and and what is their goal? What's all the apps goal? What's their goal?
Make money.
They want to make, thank you, business major. They want to make money.
Okay.
How do you make money in the screen?
You get people to click and buy stuff.
How do you get people to click and buy stuff?
You have to somehow get it in front of them and make it look appealing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, in a way, that's no different than you and me growing up. I don't know if you did, but 70s and 80s, Saturday morning cartoons. And guess what they had all the time? Toys and cereal.
Cereal.
Right?
So fun.
And they had to make, Captain Crunch, Count Jack, Chocula, and all that stuff. I mean, I gotta have it, right? Well, it's the same strategy. But the other thing about the designers and engineers who design these apps and algorithms use the same content and strategies used by casinos and slot machines. Okay, if you think about a slot machine, right, it's got all these bells and whistles. Used to have handles, now it has buttons, but they're trying to keep your attention to get you putting those, well, now you don't put quarters in, but to keep, that's exactly the same thing. And that's its goal. And that's, remember, a tool is neither bad nor good, but it's not neutral. Okay. So if the people have designed the tool with the primary goal to capture your attention so they can make money off of that attention, then I would suggest there are certain side effects from that. And that's why, 2007, Steve Jobs held up the iPhone. And what did the iPhone do that was so unique? It did three things.
You tell me.
I'm going to tell you now.
Yeah.
Three things. You could access the internet, you could talk to somebody on the phone, and you could play music. And it was all on the same device. And guess what the least interesting was at that point? The internet.
Okay.
All right. It was the music and the phone, but that's before apps.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Now, but you don't use the phone, but it brought it all together.
Yeah, sure.
And where was I going? I don't remember the iPhone. Oh, 2007. Oh, no. Everybody, I don't remember, again, you and I are old enough to know this, and John, because he was 21, he said. I don't remember people saying that was bad or be careful. The thing I remember about is I couldn't afford it. It was $600 back then.
Wow.
And I was looking up, I think the Razors, $100, $150, the dumb phones.
Oh, wow.
And I remember a college student I was around who came from a very rich family had bought the very first one. I thought, wow, but I couldn't get it. I think it was version 3 before I got one. Okay. But nobody was saying, this could be bad. This could be wrong. This could destroy. This could really hurt people. Yeah. But now, I mean, how many articles and books and podcasts are done from secular culture about the negative consequences of the screen?
Sure.
Right? One of the best-selling books is still on the best-selling list. Is called The Anxious Generation.
The Anxious
Generation by Jonathan Haidt, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. And you'll see that a lot. They did studies, specifically junior high girls, but most teenagers, just the effects of the phone and just being on the screen and not being with real people and always comparing themselves, all that stuff that's typical, right? But just magnifying that. So there's oh no, what are we going to do? There was one writer, he wrote a book called Stolen Focus, Why You Can't Pay Attention and How to Think Deeply Again. And he suggests that the government should ban phones until you're 21. That was interesting. That's a little extreme, but those kinds of things, they're all talking about it. And so, and it took about 5 years and the Christians started getting into it. So one of the first ones I read and I used in class was 12 things here he goes. 12 things your phone is changing, 12 ways your phone is changing you. By a guy named Tony Reinke. And then those started coming out. Digital liturgies. I like this one. This is a great title. The Wolf in Their Pockets.
Yeah.
13 ways the social internet threatens the people you, this is for pastors. You need to read this. Threatens the people you lead.
13 ways
the social internet threatens the people you lead. So what I'm trying to say is, 18 years later, most people say, how are we going to handle all these negative consequences? The AI is 1,000 days old. People, and it's freaking people out. We're already asking. I mean, no, I should say it this way. I'm fearful at times that we're doing the same thing again.
No.
AI is great. We can use it. Let's go for it. And nobody's saying, wait a second.
There's going to be serious consequences.
Could there be consequences from all this?
Okay. So you said the AI is 1,000 days old. You mean it's just been,
what's it called? Chat, the LLMs, large language models, Chat GPT. Thank you, John.
Okay.
That's been 1,000 days old.
Okay. Like it's literally just been up and running for 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, and that's when you talk about churches, like I saw a certain pastors group in the area. I won't say who it was, but they held a session on how you can use ChatGPT in your church.
Oh, really?
Did you see that?
No.
Oh, yeah. I won't say who. And they were hosting a session. I'm not saying that was wrong. Okay. I'm sure it was fine because there's a lot of good things ChatGPT and AI can do for you.
Okay.
Right? But we also need to be saying, what are the possible negative things? Right? And we need to ask it now, not later.
Okay. Well, no, I hear you on that. And you're saying that really you started thinking more deeply about all this that you just shared about. You started thinking more deeply about that around 2010-ish?
2010, yeah.
Okay. And so now you've had 14, 15 years of thinking on this, ruminating on this, kind of seeing how things have developed. And it's been on your heart to start to share this stuff with our church and to start to address these things with our church. And I want to hear you share some thoughts on that in just a second. But to me, as you're sharing this, my mind is drawn to the Lord Jesus, where he taught us to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? And what I'm hearing from you is really a call, a hearkening, in some ways maybe a warning of how technology can potentially be a detriment to us learning to love the Lord with our minds. Am I hearing you correctly on that, or is that taking it a step too far?
But I would also our hearts. In fact, the first week of the series, we're talking about how it's affecting our hearts.
Okay.
But so I would agree with you. Yes.
Okay. So
more than the mind.
As people are listening to this podcast, they'll be listening to it after the second week of the series. So if you missed the first week of the series, you may want to go back and hear what Scott shared about that on the first week. So just tell us a little bit on this pod right now, like why, as you thought more about this particular 2-week series, just kind of why was it important to you to do this sermon series at UBC amongst our people right now?
Well, I've been teaching a class on discipleship for roughly 5 years, maybe 6 years. And that's been a central part of that class because I think we need to think about what it means to be with Jesus and follow Jesus in the culture we are, right? So you said, Jesus had a culture with all sorts of less technology than we have, but he had it. We have much more complicated technology today. So I think we need to keep that in mind. And as we know, we just talked about it. The screen, it can be a deformer of our hearts, right? And so we need to take account of that.
And it's not really just to be kind of precise, it's not really the screen or the device itself. No. It's the content coming through that medium.
Well, it's not only the content, it's the habits it's building.
Oh, the habits.
And the attention. We do it. The screen is the tool, right? And it may not be your phone. It could be your laptop. It could be your iPad. But it is whatever, the medium you use. It is something that has caused. Well, let me give you. How's how I've seen it described. What the screen does. Okay, it dominates us. Okay, let me say one more time. The screen is simply a quick way to talk about how the internet and all that information, all that access is so available to you 24/7. Like, for example, TVs, right? We grew up and every good preacher right? Romans 12:2, don't be conformed.
Be
TV
transformed by the-
and rock and roll, right? I mean, that's how this devil's going to get you. Okay. But just think about TV, right? You could, and everything was great on TV, but you could only watch TV in your living room, right? At certain times, and you only had 3 choices, but you had to be sitting in your living room, right? I can remember portable little TV thingies that you could get, but now you've got this access to anything and everything in your back pocket 24/7.
Sure.
Right? That's why it's so different. But anyway, so it's dominating, it reorients us, it's reorienting, and it's conditioning us. Okay. And it's affecting how we spend our time, how we behave, and how we feel. And here's the phrase. Okay. This is the phrase I want people to remember about the screen. Okay. It is a heart shaping tool. It does things. I mean, the TV was a heart shaping tool. We can laugh about rock and roll, but right, music can be a heart shaping tool.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Any kind of entertainment or information that we partake of can be heart shaping.
Okay.
Right. But there's a power to what we have now that hasn't been there before.
Yeah. I'd be interested to hear if you're going to make a case for that kind of in your sermon, or if you want to make a case for it now, because I'm sitting here thinking like, well, what about when the car came out? I mean, it was such a world changer and it dominated everybody's thinking, oh, I got to get a car, whatever. And, it was consumed their mind. And then eventually everybody had one, right? Even things like other a bicycle, right? If you become a bicyclist, like you can start being dominated in your thoughts and your use of a bike, right? So I guess my point is, how does what you're saying kind of specially apply to the screen in your pocket, that in a manner that's more serious than it would have applied to somebody with anything else that could, like a technological advancement that could consume their mind, like a car or a bike or a television screen or the printing press publicized books or anything else?
Yeah. Well, first off, any tech, any tool can be used for good or bad. Okay, we already said that.
Right.
So, depending how you use it and why you use it. And so let's use examples for I think I can connect this to the church. Cars. Okay. Transportation. Before cars, how you got around by?
Horses
and buggies.
Yeah.
Okay. So where'd you go to church?
In your community.
As far as a horse and buggy can carry you in a given amount of time, that's as far as you could go.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which meant a local church was a local church.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Sure.
That's just like it had Paul, Corinth, and Rome. They were like that too. Right. A local church was a local church. Mm-hmm. Cars enable much more distance for missionaries to go. I mean, planes, they're all really good, right? Mm-hmm. But cars have also made us a society that is a mobile society that usually doesn't stick around where it lives. It's easy to move around. So we can now have access to other churches that aren't close to us, which means a church like ours is more of a commuter church than it is a local church.
Say that way. It's more, but there's plenty of people.
Right. I mean, it's not everybody just in Beaver Creek that can get here by horse.
Sure.
Right. That changed the church.
Totally.
Right. So that's that. Anyway, I think there's something though, and I don't, that what the phone and the internet and what it breeds in us, what it conditions us to do, it's just much more powerful than that. I mean, that took a long time too to figure out. There's just something to that. I mean, the phone, the screen is a mirror, right? This is how we figure out who we are now. And so it lowers our gaze. I think it inverts our gaze. And keeps us from what we should be focused on and who we should be focused on. It can. Doesn't have to be. But the power of that, or let's say the temptation of that, is strong.
So I want to come back to that in just a minute, because like you just said, it can become like that. And I want to hear you share a little bit more too about things like the way that the gospel has gone forward to the nations through the use of technology and app development and stuff that is utilized through a phone, right? And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But we've talked a lot now about how technology and phones and screens have impacted churches. So I kind of want to jump ahead a little bit on our planned questions. And I'll ask you this one, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and answer some others. But when we talk about churches and technology, I kind of want to get your thoughts on some of these, what I call quick hitters down here on question number 10 on our list. Like, I would love to just hear you say, after you've thought so deeply about technology and stuff, what do you think about these specific things, right? Do you think churches should offer live streams? Yes or no? And a quick explanation of why.
Yes, if not so much for the people that they can't get to church.
Okay, so more for the people who can't get to church.
Yeah, not as a substitute for it, but especially for, as we used to call them, shut-ins, people that can't get to church anymore.
Okay, so what about the thing that's becoming popular these days of church online, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
Do you think churches should offer something called church online?
No.
And tell me about that. Why not?
Well, if you remember my second sermon, okay, the first sermon we talked, the main question is, what's transforming your heart? The second week we talked about, what does it mean to be human? Okay. And that's where I specifically AI, but also other technologies have asked ourselves, what does it mean? How did God create us? God created us image bearers. Part of that creation is embodiedness. Okay. When Jesus came to save us, what do? He took on a body. He still has that body. Okay. And our embodiedness is an essential part of who we are and how we relate to each other. If you're only doing it through the screen, you've lost it.
And so that's would be answer. Part of your reason to say, no, church online.
No,
probably not.
No, only for those that's their only hope. That's their only option. Yeah.
So, 15 years ago, satellite campuses became a thing with piping the preaching in from one site to another. Like, do you have thoughts on that?
I wouldn't. I don't have a lot of thoughts except to say I don't sense that would be quote unquote a moral issue. It's got drawbacks to it. Ministry wise, but I don't have a opinion.
All right. So what about, obviously it's become super popular these days for the more celebrity type preachers to have their churches build a social media platform highlighting pastor preaching clips and doing things like we're doing right now, making a podcast that's interviewing leadership. Like, what do you have to say about churches using social media platforms to expand the influence of their ministry or specifically the ministry of their pastor?
Okay. Well, first, I'll just say what we're doing is trying to supplement a specific topic that our church is focusing on about what does a Christian do about technology. And so we can't say everything in 2 weeks. That's why we're having a 4 weeks on, classes and we're having a podcast. So it's supplementing something we're already doing. It's not trying to magnify me or you. I have great problems for any any pastor that ever thinks the thought how'd you call it?
Expand the platform.
Expand my platform. Okay. Because usually that means how can I, when I walk in a room, make sure more people know me? When I'm at the front and center of the next conference, and as we know, as preachers and teachers of the Bible, it's such a hard temptation for us to make it about us.
Yeah.
So I think you got to work the other way.
Okay. So expand the platform. That kind of is a phrase that I guess probably not the best. It didn't assume the best.
Yeah, I guess so. Right? Yeah, the way that.
But like, just if I would have said like, hey, what about churches who sincerely want to impact more people with the gospel and they think they can do that through the use of social media and developing that out?
Yeah, I don't think that's if that's the motivation. I guess I don't have necessarily a problem with that.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, we've talked a lot about technological advancements, how they impact the church. And I want to get back into this in just a minute and talk maybe a little bit more personally, pastorally about individual people and how they process a lot of what you're talking about here today. But I think it's good for us to take a little break. And after the break, we'll come back and jump into some of the other stuff. Hey, everybody. As you've been listening to this recording with Dr. Scott Dixon, you may have a lot of questions, concerns, thoughts, feedback you'd like to get. And that's why we have decided to offer a 4-week follow-up class that Dr. Scott Dixon will be leading. We'd love for you to come to that class if you think that would be helpful to engage further in the discussion on this topic. The class is going to start on September 14th. It's going to last 4 Sundays. It's going to be meeting over at UBC East. You can get all the details and all the information about that class in the show notes. We'll link to that there for you. And so we would love for you to consider joining us for that class and engaging further in this discussion if that would be helpful to you. So we hope to see you there. All right, welcome back into UBC Talking Points here with Dr. Scott Dixon, continuing our discussion on really technology and the Christian, following up on his recent 2-week sermon series addressing that topic. So great first discussion, lots of, I'll just say, thoughts that you have been contemplating for years that were kind of brought out in the first portion of this discussion. And now we want to kind of move into, I'll just say maybe a little bit more of the pastoral care type focus and how, people are the things that they're processing and dealing with in our church as they are working through questions regarding technology. So Scott, I'll just say this. One of my main concerns about the advance of technology is that it allows so many voices to try to get, to attempt to get people's attention. And it happens all the time. There's always an ad. There's always a notification on your phone. There's always an alert. There's always a beep. There's something, right?
That's what it's designed to do.
Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me.
Exactly.
Right? And so on top of that, the average person has, real voices in their life, like their spouse and their kids and their family members and their friends and their employers and their coworkers saying, hey, pay attention over here. So talk to the person for a second who can feel overwhelmed with so many voices coming in, and maybe even those people who can feel guilty about not being able to get to everyone all the time in a fast manner. What sort of things pastorally would you like to speak to them? Be ultra practical. Just to hear what you're saying there.
I mean, when it comes to access to screens, I think we need to build boundaries. I think it's very important. One of the books I read, it's called Dopamine Nation. We talked about the dopamine hits and how, there's so many ways we've become addicted to things, in our culture, Western culture, beyond drugs, whether it's sex, gambling. And what she says in there, she's a psychiatrist from Stanford, is that I found interesting. It takes at least 4 weeks to wean yourself when you're addicted dopamine wise. It takes 4 weeks. Okay. So I think most of us listening to this know the feeling of, feeling hearing a ding, feeling of, or just knowing, is anybody is the person I texted text me back? Or did somebody give me a thumbs up? We know that kind of like, I want to know. In order to break the habit, we're going to have to take some concrete steps. You'll see guys like, Andy Crouch, who writes in this area, Christian guy. You'll see, Justin Early, by the way, is a little plug here. He's got a thing called Hang 10, HANGTEN. It's that one specifically focused 10 ways to help your kids when it comes to this. Okay. So one example is, I think don't get a phone for your kid until at least after 10 or something like that. But it's very concrete. So there's lots of stuff out there. But I think you need to build boundaries and take sabbaticals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me and Rachel, it was like our kids aren't getting phones till they need one.
Yeah.
And when do they need one? For us, it was when they get a job and they have to tell us, hey, it's time for me to get off work or whatever. Or they have to communicate with their boss or whatever, or they have to get a call back on a job application. Right. So we were like, 14, you're not getting a phone until you're 14. Right. So that was our thing.
And that piece of advice is out there by everybody, Christian, non-Christian, for the kids. But as far as personally as an adult, I think if you have any inkling that it's causing you to be focused on things, lesser things, doesn't have to be bad. Now, you like to read about Michigan, the Wolverines, or you like to read about gardening.
Yeah.
Or you like to read about Donald Trump.
Yeah. Or bikes. Or bikes.
Or bikes. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with necessarily any of that. But if it's detracting from greater things, you've got to build boundaries. And this is another thing you talked about cars. Remember, it's reminding me, why is the phone, why is the internet any worse than other things that have happened in the past? Because it is addicting. It does addict you, like heroin can addict you. Okay. There's an addicting part to it that wasn't necessarily a part of the TV or the phone. Or the car. So therefore we have to be more careful of it overwhelming us and taking concrete steps if it does. Like there's a contraption you can buy that you put it in you put it in your hallway and you put your phones there, right? And you can't, and you can lock it to a certain time.
Okay.
So you can't access it. Right. Now you could have a dumb phone, right? For emergencies and that kind of stuff. But still, I mean, you put it away. And I think we've all learned now not to have it, with you when you're having dinner, right? Those kinds of things. But, if, I would definitely say, don't wake up first thing you do, look at it or look at it the last thing before you go to bed.
So what you're saying really is for the person who feels like torn in 70,000 directions, and part of that is because of the alerts on their phone or device, you're literally saying like, hey, practical step, just discipline yourself to put it away.
Right.
And put it away.
Because it is addicting, it's not just willpower. You've got to physically do things to make it inaccessible to you.
Okay. So put it away during dinner. Okay. Kids, family, you're sitting down for dinner. Nobody brings their phones to the table.
Yeah.
Right. That's practical.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to bed at night. I mean, are you saying don't use your phone as an alarm clock? Because
no.
If you do, okay.
There's something old fashioned you can buy, an old fashioned alarm clock that will work. And they're cheap on Amazon. Yeah. Oh, well, internet. But anyway.
Nice. Old fashioned alarm clock.
Yeah.
I love it.
Now that is one of the big things you'll see.
Okay.
Don't put your phone ever on your nightstand. Put it someplace away. So you're lying in bed. You're not going to want to go up there if you hear something.
Okay.
Now, my wife, because she's a mom, she keeps alerts on just in case she gets, and my parents now who need more help. So there's some, I know, practical situations you need to have it. So I don't want to, I don't want to be legalist about it.
Sure.
But we got to be realistic. And all I see when I read is you got to take some very concrete, intentional steps to break the habit.
Okay.
Now, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, for me, I finally broken my Twitter X habit. Okay. I mean, I was just, and so the summer was I haven't looked at it for a long time. And we're not saying a long time. I mean, since the summer. I mean, at first, but
doing great.
Yeah. But still, it's just something I felt like was not a good option for me.
Yeah.
I'm still on the internet, but I don't use that.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect example of like, once you start, it's like, all right, how far are we going to get into Twitter X and just go down the rabbit hole, right?
Okay. Best book. Scrolling Ourselves to Death. It's by the Gospel Coalition people. Okay. Different chapters written by different people.
Okay.
But, the whole idea of the doom scrolling.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Suddenly,
because we're attracted to things that either make us mad or make us scared.
All right.
And so we doom scroll. And that's why ask yourself when you put your phone down, what shape are you in internally? Are you frazzled? Are you uptight? Are you angry? Those are signs. I thought about, would you say your inner self is, just read Galatians 5. Is your inner self more the top of Galatians 5 or the bottom of Galatians 5? Right. The top is the works of the flesh. The bottom's the fruit of the Spirit. Right. Just read those over and ask yourself which one's more aligned after you got done with that activity.
Okay. Now, that's for the person who recognizes there's just too much going on and they need to take some action to cut out some of the, all right, come on. What about somebody who's like kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum and they are craving solitude and silence and they begin to withdraw and, should they do that? Like, should they totally withdraw? Should they somehow find a way to utilize their phone or device to stay, relevant and engaged in the world? What if they really find themselves craving to live like, an Amish person and no technology and just go do gardening or something their whole life? I mean, what do you want? Talk to that person for a second.
Am I allowed to use the Bible in this podcast?
Please do.
Okay. But I can't find my passage. I just said that.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay. So Mark chapter 1, Jesus is healing a bunch of people. He left the synagogue, Mark 1:29, with James and John. Peter's mother-in-law was ill with a fever. So they go to Peter's house, or Peter's wife's house. And immediately they told him about her, and he came, took her by the hand, lifted her up. Okay. That evening at sundown, the townspeople, brought to him all who were sick or oppressed by demons. Right? And the whole city was gathered together at the door. And Jesus healed many who were sick with various diseases, cast out many demons, and he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. So, man, he's got a revival going on.
Yes.
Right? So what are you supposed to be doing? Right? Getting up and getting at it. Do it's more revival. But rising very early, what Jesus did in the morning, while it was still dark, he departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. And Simon comes, Peter, those who were with him searched for him, and they found him and said to him, everyone is looking for you. And he said to them, let's go to the next town. Okay. I mean, yeah, Jesus was about sharing himself in the gospel, but he also knew the rhythms and he knew how God designed us. The Father designs us, and he knew he needed time away. So if it's good, in the busiest time, he only had 3 years. Okay. So I don't think I need to defend people who want to get away to find seclusion and time with the Lord.
Okay. Now, what about the person who says like, hey, I am going to discipline myself to go do time away, but they really do, like they're retreating, they separate themselves from other distractions, but they're like, hey, I'm going to take my phone, I'm going to read my Bible on my phone.
Oh, that's stupid.
That's stupid. He says.
I should use that word. That's ill-advised. Okay. Right? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. I mean, why do you need your phone? Use a book. Analog, not dialogue. Not digital.
So I guess maybe just to push back a little bit on that is like I agree with you actually that there's dangers in carrying, the very thing that can become what'd you call it, doom scrolling and the black hole. Like, why not just use a paper Bible? I'm with you. I guess I just think so. Should we quit putting the Bible up on our screens? Right. Exactly. I mean, that's
in the sermon.
I guess that's what I'm trying to get at is there's got to be a balance here, right? Where you come back to what you shared at the beginning, that it's, how did you say it at the beginning? That technology is neither good nor bad, but it's never neutral.
Right.
So what about the person who withdraws and goes away, but they utilize technology on their away time to grow their relationship with the Lord and to spend that time with God? I mean,
sure they can. That's okay. I mean,
you're just saying it's dangerous, kind of, if it's your phone, because you can get distracted in 1,000 different ways.
Let me say it this way. For me,
yeah.
Okay, I can't speak for other people.
Okay.
I find something freeing for me to go to John Bryan, the park, right? Take my little chair, sit there and do my Bible reading, and then take a prayer walk around one of the trails. There's just something that does and helps me commune with the Lord above no others.
Yeah.
Right? Above nothing else. I mean, there's something to that.
Yeah, there's something sweet there.
And that, again, that's how God designed us as embodied people. It doesn't mean you can't use a screen to help you.
Yeah.
But you don't have to anyway. Why? I guess the question is why? Why would you?
Well, let me just give you an example. By the time people are listening to this, I will have just returned from a vacation on the beach with my family. I love to go to the beach, enjoy God's creation, and not just get a suntan, okay, but to actually put an audiobook in and listen, or to put a worship playlist on while I'm, really basking in the glory of God, seen in his wondrous creation. But I'm utilizing my phone in that moment to give a sweet, really, time of worship in my heart to the Lord, and something intentional to grow and learn while I'm out relaxing on the beach.
I think you just said the key word, something intentional.
Okay.
All right. So it's intentionally used to help you for the objective of worshiping God. Nothing wrong with that.
Good. The reason why I'm saying I wanted you to share that, because I'm a little concerned that listeners could interpret us as saying technology, phone's always bad. Go, throw it in the trash, mash it with a hammer. Never take it around.
It's if you ever hear people use the term Luddite, they say they were Luddites.
I've never heard that.
Back in the 1800s in England, in the town, I forget the town, but they made cloth. But then these machines came out that they could make cloth through steam power. And so the Luddites went in and broke all the engines because it was taking their jobs. So they called them Luddites, anti-technology. So the people use it. We're not trying to be Nullites or scolds yet. What do you think the typical tendencies of people are in this day and age, in our world? I think the tendencies for all of us is to misuse it.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful.
Okay. I think that's fair. And I just wanted to make sure we gave that.
You listen to if you want to listen to the Phil Wing worship playlist, you feel free.
Nice. What if I want to listen to Scott Dixon sermons?
No, he has no platform. He doesn't want to make a platform.
Okay. All right. So we've touched on this a little bit, but obviously in the Christian life, Jesus is our ultimate model. You have been one of the loudest voices in our church on that. Let's model Jesus, right? And always look to him. Let's not forget about Jesus in the midst of all the church busyness that we have going on. Jesus had technology advancements in his day, not the same as ours, but different types, right? So how do we follow Jesus as our model and example in the world that we live in now? I mean, you've kind of already touched on that with your reference to Mark. Right. Schedule times to still get away from the crowds, away from the voices, away from the noises and the alerts, to have intentional time with the Lord. So I think that's a really good answer to that question, to be intentional about those times away. Anything else that you would say about following Jesus in this technological world that we find ourselves?
I've just heard a podcast talking about this a little bit.
A podcast? You listen to those on your phone?
Yes, I did.
Oh my goodness.
And it was Andy Crouch, another guy, and they were actually talking about AI. That was the whole thing. But Andy Crouch talked about Jesus and technology. And he said there were really two major technologies in that time, and Jesus didn't use them. Writing. We don't think, did he ever write anything? He didn't leave anything written. He was, we know he was literate. Every good Jewish boy would know how to read the Torah. So he was literate, but he didn't write. And he also didn't seem to have a handle on money. He had to ask other people for a coin. He had these ladies who supported him. Remember that? Yeah. But I mean, he didn't seem to be into tools that much, right?
Maybe carpentry.
Yeah, carpentry back in the day, that kind of tool. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just hard to make a parallel anyway.
Yeah.
You can't. But I think the biggest thing, I already said it, but I also, and this is the thing I say with quite, a lot of, humility, because I'm not good at this. Is Jesus just knew his Bible, right? When he was most stressed, across Satan, wilderness, he responded with scripture, right? That saturated him. And that's a great word, because when we talk about the screen, saturation is a big deal, right? Jesus was saturated by Scripture. And that is, again, we don't want to be legalistic about it. I hear people say, well, you got to time how much time you're on the screen and make sure you're in the Bible a minute more. Okay, I'm not going to argue it, but I think we just need to ask ourselves, how do I become more saturated with Scripture? And there's lots of ways to do that. So that becomes my response to the stresses of life.
Okay. I really appreciate that. It's because you're emphasizing not just the discipline of, kind of withdrawing and getting away, personal time with God, but emphasizing really that the importance of your mind being brought into the truth, and that whole Philippians 4, whatever is lovely, honorable, good, like think on these things, right? And that's going to be found right in the Scripture. It's a great way to get those things in our minds.
Yeah. And that's where tech can be very helpful. Like we said, I mean, I dare guess how many Tim Keller sermons I've listened to.
Yeah, sure.
All right. And it's through technology.
Sure.
Or, in other things like that. So, that's a very good use of tools.
So let me ask you this, since we're kind of speaking about following Jesus now and all that, are there any ways that kind of stand out to you about how technology has been used for real kind of practical discipleship and community building in people's lives?
Well, I know, I haven't done this, but I've heard college students talk about it before. A guy was telling me once, he struggled with his sexual purity on the screen and the internet. And he said, I have an accountability partner actually back in my home church. He's at Cedarville, who texts me every day. He says, how's it going? Mm-hmm. So, that's something that would have been harder calling, right? But he can text me. And so that's a great tool, right? Access to people, connecting to people that way. It's a good example. I mean, I have a tool called Logos, which is a Bible. I mean, it is so helpful compared to the old days of having to go to the library to find a commentary. Like if I have a question, I've been using it like this week. I said, what the Hebrew word for delight in Psalm 1. Okay. Help me out. I said, what's that exactly mean? And it gives me the Hebrew, boom, just right there.
Okay.
Right. That kind of stuff. So that's a great use of tools.
What if somebody would have done that search not on Logos, but on ChatGPT? Still fine or no?
No, because Satan's in ChatGPT. Okay. So he'd give you the wrong definition. Actually, though, I mean, I this is funny because I just got on. I mean, I don't know. I did one of those things that Logos automatically subscribed me to the next up thing.
Oh, really?
But then I looked at it this week. I think it is ChatGPT on Logos. But instead of me having to go through Logos and to search the book, and I just put the search in, and it gets all the books and stuff, and just puts it there. So I don't know.
So I think it would be good for something for you to think about with your follow-up class. If you haven't already planned all the content, would be to think about how helping our church body know really practical ways that technology can be used to help you grow as a disciple and live in community. If technology is truly able to be used in a positive way, in a godly way for our growth and for our nurturing, I think people would love to hear that from you. And maybe you're already going to talk about it in your sermon series. Maybe you've already talked about it in your sermon series, and I haven't heard that yet because we recorded this podcast beforehand, but we'll see. But I just think we need to be ready to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, he said. All right. So when it comes to this whole subject, I think that we can't avoid a couple elephants in the room. All right. So let's talk about those elephants in the room. So media content, movies, music, TV shows, those types of things. How can Christians be discerning, right? Think about the person who doesn't have 70,000 Bible verses, memorized. We're talking about the average person in our church that's just caught up in their phone and their YouTube and their internet and their whatever, their smart TV that they have in their living room. How do they start to become discerning about the content that they are consuming in media?
Good question. I think, sometimes I don't think that's for a maturing Christian. Now, for a brand new Christian, maybe a different answer. But for a maturing Christian, I think often you may not listen to your conscience and the Spirit's voice in your at that point. I think we overestimate what the people genuinely know.
Yeah.
And if that content, that entertainment piece is pushing you towards works of the flesh versus fruit of the Spirit, then I think you shouldn't, there's no reason to partake in that.
Okay. So I agree with you. I think we have the Holy Spirit that brings things, to our awareness, our attention, speaks to us inside of our hearts for various things. And yet sometimes we'll talk to people who will say things like, well, when I watch sexually explicit content on TV or shows, it doesn't impact me. I mean, what are we saying at that point? That the person doesn't have the Holy Spirit speak to them? Or like, or is it fine to just go ahead and watch it? I mean, how do you talk to that person? What would you as a pastor in our church say to that guy who's like, yeah, it doesn't bother me when I watch that stuff. Yet here they are letting it right in their minds.
Yeah. This is where the first sermon, I hope, will have some help to people as they listen to this. We don't react first with the desire to smash things. We react by replacing them with delight in the Lord. So if my ultimate desire, is to delight in the beauty of God, to love Jesus, to be with him and follow him, if that's my desire, I'm not sure you would answer the question that way. I think we got to ask the person that says that, okay, well, what's your main desire in life? And because if it is, you don't want to be anywhere near something that's going to hinder that.
Sure.
Right? I mean, so that's what I would get at before, why doesn't it bother you? Or it should bother you. I would say, tell me about your heart a little bit. Let's talk about your heart.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think I guess I'm just trying to prod in and give you an opportunity to talk more about that whole idea of why we're drawn to the things we are. Why do we become desensitized to the things we become desensitized to? And, there is the very real possibility in the Christian life that we can quench the Holy Spirit's work, right? That we can start to follow the desires of our flesh, right? If that's not a reality, it wouldn't have been written to Christians in the Bible, right? So I think we have to be aware of the fact that the more we love Jesus, the more the good old Scott Dixon illustration of, hey, let's go back to the question of the early 2000s. What would Jesus do? Right? I mean, that really is convicting in many ways. You've asked me many times to go back to the what would Jesus do question. That's why I'm bringing that up.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's a good, it's a good kind of question for us to ask. Like, can we really say that Jesus would do this or do that? And it brings us back to what's probably spiritually helpful to us or hindering to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I understand that. I mean, I agree with that. You just used the word desensitize. I wasn't thinking about that. That's a good word. It's a bad word, but it's a good point. We can become desensitized. And again, because it's hitting us so many different ways, so fast, all the time. Okay. I mean, again, think about when we grew up. Let's go ahead and enter into sexual purity.
Yeah,
section.
right.
I don't need to get there.
Pornography is the big elephant in the room,
right?
Too,
because our experience as younger men, you had to make great efforts to see something.
Sure.
Right. And I'm great. And, I'm glad I didn't have that temptation at that point in my life. But I can see how destructive and how powerful it is. And I'm just a couple of things as before. I know UBC has specific ministries for this, but let me just say a couple of things about sexual purity, pornography, that it is a symptom of a bigger disease. Okay. It is, and somebody said online pornography is a predictable creature of the spiritual habitat of the internet. Right? I mean, in the spiritual habitat of the internet is the demonic powers. I mean, it's just to gratify yourself, right? To be all about yourself, not needing anybody else to do that. It's all about you and that screen. Pornography is a natural consequence of that. And, boredom. So you need novelty, hunger. So you need consumption, loneliness. So you're trying to connect. Right? Yeah. We need, and the best tip for this, which is not anything new, but is bring the struggle into the spotlight. Somebody said, any sin, when you bring sin into the light, it loses its power over you. But as long as you harbor it inside, it can destroy you. Number one, because you're still dealing with it. But number two, you actually feel like you're the only one. And you feel like you're such a miserable sinner that nobody and your brothers and sisters in community would at all look down on you. And in fact, even God looks down on you. So you've lost the gospel there, right?
And so those are the lies we tell ourselves and we start to believe,
And that's one of the best parts of being a part of a church, being part of a community, an embodied community that we can talk to each other and bring these things out in the light. Men who spend a lot of time online tend to struggle more than men who do not. That's just a fact. Proximity tends to determine plausibility. So again, if you want to just think about helps, don't ever get on the screen by yourself. When you're on your screen, be in the living room with your kids or your wife or your roommate. That will help. But I think, this, when we went back and talked about dopamine, this is one of the bigger ones, right? It's not only the screen, it's your sexual, design that God made us with that's hitting that addicting power. So what do we do at UBC to get help?
Yeah, well, obviously we have groups for men to join that can be part of this, right? So we've tried to emphasize our men's conquerors group that is available to any man in our church, young or old, somebody with kind of a long-standing addiction or kind of a newly formed thing. Like, we want to come alongside men. So if there's any man listening to this podcast right now that they know that that's a struggle, they need help, definitely look into being part of the Men's Conquerors group in our church, where you will be able to find that community of brothers who are fighting for purity together, trying to help each other grow more like Christ and see this particular desire of the flesh put to death in our lives. And, they're encouraging each other along the way in that struggle. So the Men's Conqueror group is the way to go as far as a practical step, a group to directly hit that sin problem head on.
What would a woman do who's listening?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, that's something that we've been discussing with certain facets of our leadership, just saying, hey, we recognize that when it comes to women, there is an increase, an uptick of women that are dealing with pornography use themselves, or women who are greatly impacted by their husband's use or one of their children's use of pornography. And so we have to grow in that. And that's conversations we're having with our women's ministry right now about how do we specifically start to develop something to come alongside women in that situation.
Yeah, I know one of the things we're going to have said in the sermon is that Dan.turner is the link to our Conquerors group. So email him, find him on the webpage. It's at UBC. And then Rachel.kimble is the women's ministry director.
Correct. Yeah.
And she can help any woman who's interested connect to some ways to get help.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are two great steps there. To kind of wrap up our time here today, Scott, I will just say, I know that you've mentioned a bit about AI throughout this conversation. AI is the next kind of thing on the horizon. Or it's not even on the horizon now. It's like it's in our face. Would you say anything else that we need to be ready for technologically that's kind of coming down the road, or is that maybe that's question for somebody else?
And this is one of the things, I can look back at years of studying and reading about the screen. AI, I to be honest, because of my position, my job, right? Everybody says all the college students are going to use AI to cheat in your paper, so you can never assign an essay out of class, all that kind of stuff. It really does affect my job, AI. So I've kind of been scared of it. But I don't know what else is coming. That's a big one. Oh, well, I would say this one's getting a lot of play in secular market and Christian market, as robots and therapists, bot pastors, right? Is it okay, for UBC to have its own chatbot full of Jason's sermons and so people can, if they need a pastoral counsel, they can just, UBC chatbot?
Yeah. That's going to be, robots and that.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about this, again, I was listening to this podcast on AI, to make robots seem like human is still a big jump.
Well, to me, that ties into the theological idea of what does it mean to be an image bearer created in God's image?
What's it mean to be human?
And we had a big conversation with my kids the other day about if and when human cloning becomes a reality, are they really a human? Do they bear the image of God or not? So I think those are things that are kind of fascinating to look into and will probably be part of our world.
Well, I think that's why young guys like Ethan O'Neill can take that handle. Maybe you'll still be young. You and Phil still be young, but
not that young. Well,
you know what you could do though? When I'm in the old folks' home, can you get me a robot cat? I don't want a robot dog.
No cats.
Is that okay?
No cats.
Is that okay?
Ask Ethan O'Neill.
Okay.
All right. Last question. If you had to give one or two book recommendations for people who are like, hey, I just want to start to dip my toe into learning more about this.
Oh, best one, again, Scrolling Ourselves to Death, Reclaiming Life in a Digital Age. You can go to the Gospel Coalition. It's a Crossaway book. It's really good. It's different chapters with different people. Yeah. Some are better than others, but that will give you a good feel. I would really go Justin Early, and just this Google Justin Early or a Hang 10 movement. He's doing a lot of thought, especially as parents, on technology. So I think those are two good places to go.
Justin Early and the Hang 10 movement.
Yeah.
And Scrolling Ourselves to Death.
It's a good book to start with.
Put together by Gospel Coalition. Let's link to those in the show notes of the podcast.
Yeah.
And people will be able to access them there.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Dixon, let's wrap up right here. Thank you for taking some time and coming in to share your heart with us and some of your thoughts that have been brewing for years now, and to help our church think through this super practical and important topic for us. For anybody who's listening to this podcast, I hope that this has been helpful to you and that this might stir up some things in your mind and in your heart that help you know Christ deeper and make him known in our world and our community. And we will look forward to seeing everybody next time on another episode of UBC Talking Points.